Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Monday Musings, Danny and Friends SportsWrap. It's presented by Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. And boy, we have a very, very interesting one today. There are highs, there are lows. Actually, there are quite a few lows if you want to look at strictly wins and losses. The Kansas City Royals will be part of our Friends aspect of the Danny and Friends SportsWrap as David Lesky from Inside the Crown will talk to us about all things Royals, where they keep just winning enough games and putting the important rally in every now and then to keep things really at a pretty good status quo, which is almost 10 games over 500. They've basically been a 500-ish baseball team for a while, but it's come against a tough stretch. We'll talk with David about that. We'll have our baseball roundup. We will keep it in continuity, which will be David in the first segment and then the baseball roundup right after the break. But really, the 1A for today, which isn't local, but it certainly was the riveting U.S. Open. I don't know if even if you weren't a golf fan, you couldn't enjoy the absolutely riveting tension, and in the end, desperate, gut-punching loss by Rory McIlroy and impressive and gutty win by Bryson DeChambeau. And in typical winning a golf tournament fashion, and in particular, a U.S. Open, where it was played at a super difficult golf course, it's going to be hard to get to the finish line. You saw it from both players. You saw it the most from Rory. An unbelievable gut punch for him. I guess that's about the only way to put it. He didn't speak afterwards. Bryson DeChambeau did. NBC certainly seemed to want to build up Bryson as a big star, and he is, and he's won 2 majors now, and he deserves all the credit he got because his win was done more on grit. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. We've got potentially the end of the NHL and NBA seasons over the next couple days. NBA tonight, NHL tomorrow. The finals have not been particularly riveting. The team that's way ahead has won their games easily, and then the team that was getting thumped produced a big rout in Game 4. There's that. There's a little bit of Chiefs. There's a little bit of other stuff. There's Sporting Kansas City. I guess I left that one for last because things aren't going well at all for Sporting. All that is part of Monday Musings, Danny and Friends Sports Wrap. It's presented by ASFCA, Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture, 7 locations all around Kansas City. They bring you David Lesky next and plenty more on Monday Musings.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Always great to catch up with Dr. Brad Whittle of Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. Everybody wants to make every year a great one mentally and physically, and certainly ASFCA can help in that regard.
Chiropractic, acupuncture, physiotherapies. We're going to address the body and the mind to keep you in great shape. With winter moving into spring, we don't want to have the opportunity to get hurt or to be slow and not do what we used to do, right?
Absolutely right, and you can do that in a variety of ways.
We can. We love looking at the body and how it moves, looking at the posture and how it holds us to be strong, to be safe, and really to help us do those things we love to do.
The wide variety and range of services you can get helps in that regard at Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture, 7 locations all around the Kansas City area. Find the one that's most convenient for you. And for more information, visit asfca.com/Danny. That's asfca.com/Danny.
Hey Kansas City, Joe Spiker, Easton Roofing back for another beautiful springtime in Kansas City. We are proud to announce our renewed partnership with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Kansas City. Starting in 2024, a portion of every job sold will be donated to a cause close to my heart. I was a big, and I encourage you to volunteer. And if you hire us for service on your residential or commercial roof, you'll know that a portion of the profits will go to a great cause. So call us at 913-257-5426. Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
If you'd like to join these and other fine sponsors and market your business to Kansas City's #1 variety podcast, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to working with you. Welcome back. It's a cool sports weekend to talk about, and our weekend in review guy from Inside the Crown is David Lesky. That's what he calls his Monday newsletter, and that one's free at Inside the Crown, and then you can become a paid subscriber, which is what you should do and what I do. But you can check out his work, and it's voluminous and in-depth, and I said on the open, David, that you can impress your friends by all the stuff you learn from Inside the Crown. So let's do some of that. How's that sound?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can impress your friends that you read so many words that probably could have been condensed to half of that. But yeah, sure.
There we go. Well, the Royals have been a 500-ish team for a while now, but that's not so bad considering the quality of the opposition. And I think the key for them has been games like the final game against the Yankees and then getting the grand slam from Melendez. They just have been chipping in every now and then with those games that have changed the narrative potentially from the Royals being in kind of an extended, maybe pseudo slump to a team that's hanging in there.
Yeah, I mean, I remember back, what was it, the first 3 weeks of the season, they were 9-4. They just came off the 7-game winning streak. And then they just kind of hung around for a while. I mean, when they hit their 8-game winning streak, they were 7 games over 500. So, because they were 26 and 19, I believe, at that point. And they won 8 in a row, got to 15 games over. But if you think about that, 9-4 is 5 games over. All the way 32 games, they were 2 games over. So, what is that, 17 and 15, I guess,
right,
in that time frame. And I think you and I talked about this at the time, that the good teams, they go 500 for a while. And then they win 8 in a row, or they win 10 of 12 or whatever. And they have their hot stretches, and then they go 500 again. And the Royals they're down to 9 games over. So they've been then 6 games under since the 8-game winning streak, which isn't ideal. But again, you mentioned the quality of the opponents. I mean, going back to, I looked at this stretch starting with the Detroit series. And I think it's fair. The Tigers had expectations coming into this season. They have hovered around 500, but I mean, there were a lot of people smarter than me picking the Tigers to compete in the Central Division, and it hasn't really come through for them for a number of reasons. But Tigers and Rays ahead of this really tough 19-game stretch after that, and the Royals went 12 and 13. It was supposed to be 26 games, rain out all that. They went 12 and 13 in that stretch, and that includes part of their 8-game winning streak, and they're 7 and 12 over the last 19 games, which again, not great, but it's a short stretch. And so, now is the time. Schedule lightens up. Now they've got to run with it. And I think that the other thing that I keep thinking about, in previous years, that 7 and 12 is what? 4 and 15, 3 and 16, maybe.
Right.
I mean, good teams have 7 and 12 stretches. Look what the Braves are doing right now. They're they've kind of bounced back, but they've been in a struggle for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So you tread water, and then you get hot, and then you tread water, and then you get hot. And if you do that the right way, eventually you get to, what is the last day of the season? September 30th, I think, with 90 to 92 wins. And that probably get you in the playoffs.
Right. And this stretch, however, has meant that we are actually not talking about real extensive breathing room. The Royals are still in a wild card position, comfortably by 3.5 games, but it was a lot bigger previously, and there's a lot of teams there and maybe some teams that are finding some form. But let's talk about it individually, or at least in segments, as far as the quality of the team is concerned. What we've seen is that after a flat spot for a little while, we start to see the starting pitching return to some kind of form, and in some cases, great form. Seth Lugo looks like he's showing no signs of really slowing down. They will get a pitcher or two back as well. Brady Singer was pretty much fine, except for Shohei Ohtani in his latest start. So it looks like the starting pitching, it was never going to be as great as it was for the first couple of months, but it certainly looks like it's going to be reliable. Yeah,
they bounced back. It's a stretch. And I mean, to me, I think the biggest thing we learned over this stretch is that the Yankees are really good. like just way too good. It's not fair. and because the Royals, they played these first place teams, and they split 2 with the Guardians. Okay, and honestly, they should have won both of them. I mean, they just completely wanted away that first game. They took 2 or 3 from Seattle, and they probably should have lost.
And
2 or 3, but whatever.
Seattle's been hot for a long time.
They've been really hot, and look at that Mariners pitching staff. The Royals Royals came back from 8-0 on a really good pitching staff in that series, and so that was fine. The Yankees outclassed them for really 4 games. They came back obviously and won the 4th game, which, as you said, is really important, I think. But I didn't think the Dodgers outclassed them. I really didn't, and so yeah, I feel like they handled their business pretty well and kind of showed that make it to a postseason series. I don't know that they're going to be overmatched. I mean, and yeah, the starting pitching means a lot. I mean, they didn't get it against the Yankees. Seth Lugo was okay on Monday against New York, and obviously the Wednesday game was a disaster. Brady Singer was. I wouldn't say a disaster against the Yankees, but he wasn't good. And then Alec Marsh was outstanding. And that was the beginning of getting that back. And now, Tuesday, I guess, is they're not going to finish the turn of the rotation because they're skipping that last starter today. But they've now got one turn of the healthy rotation that's back on track. Four straight quality starts. I think one of them was great, one of them was really good, one was pretty good, and one was solid. You take that over 4 starts. If those are your 4 starts, you take that all day long.
It does seem like, the offense is what it is, which is pesky, can be shut down and look very ordinary for long stretches of time, but they hardly ever just roll over. I got to admit, I was pretty surprised that they just kind of, limped to the finish on Sunday. That just isn't what they do. Now, Tyler Glasnow, he's good and he looks better.
He was really good. Yesterday, I thought he was – I've watched a couple Glasnow starts just because West Coast, you get Royals games over. Okay, I can watch a different game now. And he's looked really good this year. I thought he looked the best I've seen yesterday, which, of course, came into the Royals. But, I mean, he was just phenomenal yesterday.
He was. I enjoy watching him pitch. Now, I don't want to see him shut the Royals down, but I liked his languid style, and the ball, it just explodes out of his hand. I mean, he's just cool to watch to me. But anyway, again, we're not getting anything truly different as far as the offense is concerned. It's not like some of the guys who were down have perked up. Hunter Renfroe was starting to maybe find a little bit of form before he got hurt. MJ Melendez just is somebody that you want to, you get a lottery ticket punched every now and then, and they've been fun, as was pointed out on the broadcast yesterday. His contributions have been minimal but important, and but the other guys just aren't necessarily hitting. And Bobby Witt is great, which we just shouldn't really take for granted. And Perez hit a big three-run homer, and he's starting to get dinged up a little bit. That's always going to be a concern with Salvi. But I think the offense kind of is what it is, and that's not bad. They've scored the most runs in the division, and they're good for the occasional explosion, and they're also good for the occasional game where they're just going to get beat because they don't hit.
Yeah. I mean, they do one thing exceptionally well, and it's that when they're not facing guys like Tyler Glasnow, they don't strike out. And so, I mean, it goes back to what we saw with the playoff teams in 14 and 15. They put the ball in play, and sometimes things happen. It's just, it's not always explainable, but the reason that you want your pitching staff to strike guys out is because a strikeout is always an out. There's, the one time in every whatever.
When it's a pass ball or whatever.
Right. But a strikeout's pretty much always an out. A batted ball is not always an out. I mean, the batting average on balls in play is, 291 or something this year? So, yeah, a lot of the times it's an out, but not always. and when you put the ball in play, you can make some things happen. And the Royals, while they have some plotters, they have speed, too. I mean, they've got guys who I don't know how many, little dribblers have become hits for the Royals that maybe wouldn't become hits if for a lot of other teams or for a lot of other players in the Royals lineup. And that's the one thing they do really well, which I think allows them to sometimes scratch and claw, and then they do have a couple guys who can launch it, and they've been timely a lot of the time. So yeah, I mean, they need some help offensively. I mean, if they, I don't want to say it's a failure if they don't get somebody, because the trade market is always different and evolving and weird. But they could use, I would say, at least one middle to bottom of the order bat, and maybe too. And the nice thing is they don't need the star. They need a guy who can help round out the lineup and not embarrass themselves. And those guys are available, and they don't cost a ton either.
There's no doubt about that, but let's